Welcome to this week's edition of Pit Stop with me, Jaco van der Merwe. I'm joined by Charles Bosch. On the agenda this week, it is the next product in the alliance between Toyota and Suzuki. It was launched in India this week and it's heading for South Africa. Toyota South Africa has confirmed. Toyota South Africa Motors, of course. It doesn't have a local name yet. That is up for speculation. But in India, it's called the Toyota Urban Cruiser Taisor. Now, Charles, we know in India there's a Toyota Urban Cruiser Highrider. Now there's an Urban Cruiser Taisor. In South Africa, we've got an Urban Cruiser. Just quickly, where does this fit into the whole
So in total,
picture?
this is the 8th model out of Toyota's alliance or joint venture with Suzuki's Maruti division in India. So just for clarification, the Urban Cruiser, which we know in South Africa, let's start with the beginning, first of all. The previous generation Urban Cruiser, when it came here, was based on the Suzuki Vitara Brezza. And it revived the name last used for a completely unrelated vehicle called the East that's IST in Japan. So they brought it here, and now the new Urban, we all know the Urban Cruiser was a sales
Then
success.
they discontinued the
Yes.
Vitara Brezza.
Yeah, and at the same time they discontinued the Urban Cruiser. So then with the new Urban Cruiser that we've got, it's called the Urban Cruiser Highrider in India for the reason that it has a hybrid powertrain as standard in India. But because it doesn't have that in South Africa, they've just removed the Highrider name completely.
They've kept the name Urban Cruiser,
Yeah.
just Urban Cruiser, but although the Suzuki Vitara Brezza became the Grand Vitara.
Yes. So the Urban Cruiser, the new one, is a joint venture model with the new Grand Vitara. They share the same platforms. They share some of the engine components and so on. The Urban Cruiser Taisor. Now, this has been something that's been going on for 2 years. It was rumored as a rumor at the end of 2022, and it's the badge equivalent or the rebadge version of the Suzuki Franx in their lineup. But
Now the Franx is a crossover between the Starlet,
yes,
between the Baleno, which is the Suzuki Baleno, which shares a platform with the Toyota Starlet.
yes,
And the other side of the crossover is the Grand Vitara and the Urban Cruiser, basically.
it's a bit of a difficult thing to fathom because the Suzuki Baleno, we know it's Toyota Starlet in South Africa. It's called the Toyota Glanza in India. And what basically you can, as you mentioned correctly, so you can, from a Suzuki standpoint, you can fit the Franx between the Baleno and the Grand Vitara. From a Toyota standpoint, it will most likely be the same when the Urban Cruiser Taisor ranks between the Glanza in India, if you call it that, and the Urban Cruiser Highrider. For South Africa, though, it is an interesting one because it has been confirmed. There's no timeline that's been given. Toyota did not specify when it will be launched. But what we do know is that once it arrives here, it will be positioned below the Urban Cruiser. And in effect, it will take up the position of the old Urban Cruiser and become Toyota's most accessible crossover SUV. Vehicle. But we'll have to wait and see with regards to the name. The engines are going to be different from India. But yeah, that's all that we know at the moment.
What we can basically expect now fairly safely is that it will be very much based or similar in specifications, powertrain, all of that to the Franx we're getting it.
Yes.
Which will mean the KB15B 77 kilowatt,
138 newtons.
Yes, which we get now in a lot of products over here, from the Starlet to the Grand Vitara, all of them.
I think that powertrain, you can have it with either a 5-speed manual or 4-speed automatic gearbox. It's the same as you mentioned in the Franx. It's different from India, and I know people will get a little bit irritated when they know that India has access to a 1-liter petrol engine, normally aspirated, and a 1-liter turbo, which we will never get here because of our emissions regulations and so on. So yeah, it will be when you look at the pictures, it's very likely likely updated or different from the Franks. It's got a different grille that comes from looks like it's been shared with the Toyota Rumion, which is another one based on the Suzuki Ertiga. There's small differences, and inside, basically the Suzuki badge has been replaced by a Toyota badge on the steering wheel. That's it. So specification, top of the range models in India get the 9-inch touchscreen infotainment system, get cruise control, and so on. So we expect the spec to be eventually similar to the comparative Franks GLX, but we don't know. We wait for final configurations to be announced.
Yeah, of course, that will affect the price because well known on the urban cruiser, the new urban cruiser and the comparative Grand Vitara, there's quite a spec difference there across the board. According to Toyota, that will all, you can't choose these little things separately. It was all part of the package. And to keep the pricing down, they had to go for certain options. And now, exactly on that point, getting to the price, the Franks is below 300.
288, I believe, for just over 288,000 for the base model.
Okay, and the urban cruiser starts at about 340.
Yeah, 342.
Okay, and so if you're gonna come up with something, let's say between the top spec Starlet and the entry level urban cruiser, Toyota might surprise us and bring it in under 300.
That is the speculation. It's a big one. We all know that the Grand Vitara has a credit over the comparative urban cruiser, but we expect this, and this was the main point that I think Toyota wants to drive home, is because the old urban cruiser was so well priced and it was well under $300,000. They lacked something because people don't necessarily want a Starlet, but they can't afford an SUV or so on, or can't afford it in the sense that the urban cruiser was maybe too expensive. So we expect, speculatively, that it might come under 300,000 rand. So still a bit pricier than a Franks, but it will definitely, well, not definitely, but will speculatively priced under 300,000.
Yeah, of course. The previous gen urban cruiser was a very good seller for Toyota, and it's largely basically based on it, although the new one has got almost significantly longer, over 4 meters. The new one's still under. But if you look at the popularity of the previous urban cruiser and also the Vitara Brezza, those were, and it's not a case of people whined that they were too small and whatever.
No.
They were just too happy at the opportunity to buy a Toyota SUV at that price.
It's worth noting that the Brezza is still available in India. There's a brand new Brezza that was launched about 2 or 3 years ago, but that will never be available in South Africa as a Suzuki, nor as a Toyota, because Toyota basically said that is not what they want to compete with at all. So effectively, even though I think there might be some, how can we put it, scoffing at the fact that the urban cruiser Taisor is a coupe-esque crossover, which could impact headroom and so on, instead of being a full crossover SUV, compact SUV, small SUV, even in the traditional sense as a urban cruiser. But it still is going to be the most accessible gateway to SUV ownership with a Toyota badge, even though it's a Suzuki underpinned model. So we'll have to wait and see if the popularity that was started with the old urban cruiser continues with the urban cruiser Taisor, whatever Toyota is going to call it. But I don't think it's already been sort of indirectly confirmed that it won't be called the urban cruiser Taisor here in South Africa. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, so we're waiting on the name, we're waiting on price, and we're waiting on specification. All we know, it's coming in the coming months. How many months, we don't know. But as soon as we're here, please join us again on Pit Stop, and we will, discuss what it brings to the table in this very interesting segment. If you like this podcast, please go and like us, and also follow the Pit Stop podcast on the YouTube channel if you like to, or the Citizens YouTube channel if you like to listen to it every week and stay abreast of the latest motoring news and anything affecting the South African motoring industry. That's all from us this week. I'm Jaco van der Merwe and I was joined by Charles Bosch. Thanks for listening.